したい人で読み直しているで読み直しているだけがで読み直しているで読み直してで読み直しているで読み直しているで読み直しているエキスしたい人で読み直しているで読み直しているだけがで読み直しているしたい人で読み直しているで読み直しているだけがで読み直しているで読み直してで読み直しているで読み直しているで読み直しているエキスしたい人で読み直しているで読み直しているだけがで読み直しているで読み直している
Good morning. Oh, yeah, I'm late. But you know how it go. You know how it go. I'm always out here sleeping in. Hit the snooze way too many times this morning. But I still had to get that workout in, so I hustled. 15 minutes late. It's my bad. But thanks for being patient with me. I want to tell my friends on Instagram that I'm live. But first I want to say welcome and good morning. Welcome to Book Club. Welcome to Caden's Podcast Book Club, where we talk about life and we talk about how to be better people, and that's pretty much it. How to be better people and like the complexities of human existence and a lot of shit that I don't understand, but I read a lot of books and we talk about the books so that we read books from people that are smarter than us to gain their wisdom so we can create new wisdoms and maybe have a better understanding of the world and human behavior. I think I say on my blog that it's about self-help and exploring the human condition. So that's pretty much it. Self-help, self-improvement, and the human condition. I'm live on Twitch under Alpha Seltzer. I'm live on YouTube, Caden's Podcast. I'm live on Facebook, Caden's Podcast. And then I post it on Spotify and Apple Podcast. So, okay, let me do this. I'm going to just take a picture of me on the stream, and I'm going to say we are live on, well, I'll say we're live. Find me through the link in my bio for the pod. Yeah, I like it. Okay. Did you have a good week? Did you have a good weekend last weekend? Let's see, what did I do? I drank a bottle of wine and played Sequence and Yahtzee. I hate that. Not Sequence. I hate drinking too much wine. But I like wine. Cheers. Here's good morning. Do you have your cup of Joe out? Good morning. Oh, yeah. That's a good one. We made some new friends, and we've been hanging out with them and just been having a really good time. So we played cards. I played a lot of video games over the weekend. Neglected some other important things in my life and I'm mad about it, but you know what? The video games were a really good time. I just wish there was more time in the day to do that, to do all of the stuff that I want to do, because most of my day is always taken up by work that I don't hate, but just work that has to be done and errands and chores. I remember Mark Cuban saying on Shark Tank that he made a decision a long time ago that he was never going to make his bed because he did some stupid math and said it takes maybe 3 minutes to make his bed every day, and 3 minutes in the let's do that math. Let's see. It takes 3 minutes. Let's say it takes 3 minutes to make your bed. Mark Cuban did this on the Shark Tank, but he already had the numbers. If it's 3 minutes a day for 7 days, you can just do 3 minutes times 365. You make your bed every day, you're giving up 1,095 minutes a year. Divided by 52 weeks, it's 21 minutes a week. Yeah, I could have done that math in my head. Does it take 3 minutes, though, to make your bed? Yeah, probably. But he's like, that's 21 minutes a week that he could be doing something else. And I guess I remember it being way bigger than 21 minutes. But anyway, he's like, I'm not going to make my bed because I could be doing other things with my time. And then I saw a stupid video of, my Instagram is super curated for inspirational how to get rich videos because of who I follow. I've unfollowed all of my friends and meme pages and stuff. So I just get a ton of suggested financial inspiration videos. And Dan Blazarian or Bill's, whatever his name is, the guy that just parties and smokes weed and has a bunch of girls on his videos, was giving a speech on pretty much saying the same thing. He said, I don't want to spend any of my time working. That's why I'm always with girls and I'm always working out and I'm always smoking weed. I think he said something like that. And that was on a financial inspiration page, but it's the same message. I don't want to spend 8 hours a day cleaning carpets just because the same reason. I'd rather be spending my time doing all the stuff that I enjoy. But how the fuck do you get to the place where you can just not worry about doing all that other stuff, work stuff, and do the things that you enjoy and still, whatever. I've said this 100 million times before. Like, you put in the hard work now so your future self can do that. Your future self can be that person that's just doing that has a lot less responsibility. And that's why I read a lot of those books on finance earlier, because I want to become financially independent, so I don't have to rely on working for a living. Yeah, whatever. This is the same. It's the same. Hey, good morning, mashed potatoes. Video games are so fun, though. We take dubs. I know. I had so much fun yesterday. That's what I'm saying. I don't not want to play video games. I want to play video games and have time to do everything else. But I've spent so much time playing video games, and I spent more time working last week. If I could have played twice the amount of video games last week and not have, if I didn't have work, and I would have gotten all the other shit that I wanted to get done. But, didn't. It's just not possible. It's not possible to. Anyway, that's besides the point. Life is good, and we need to work. What did Marcus Aurelius say about work? He said, "Are you going to stay under the covers all day, or are you going to go to work?" It's not like other animals get to choose to just stay in, to sleep in. They have to hunt. They have to work to get their food. So do humans. Humans got to work every day. But the kind of work is different. All right, I'm going back and forth. The argument is different. Our work is mundane, and it's not satisfying. A lot of people's work is not satisfying. Like the garbage man came the other day, and I was taking my cans out as he was coming around, and I tried waving and being friendly, and he was just grumpy, and I'm like, he probably hates his life as a garbage collector. I mean, but we have to have garbage collectors, or where's the garbage gonna go? It's just a weird. We live in a weird world. We live in a weird ass world. So there's my hot takes for the morning. Whatever. All right. Well, let's get it right into it, huh? Shall we? Oh, well, I guess I want to make a plug for my blog too. I do a blog. I write in a blog every week, and you find the blog in my Instagram bio or my Twitter bio, and those are right here. I need to update my YouTube stuff still, but you can find my blog under Caden Kelly's blog at .wordpress.com. Caden Kelly's blog.wordpress.com. And I just started posting to Substack because I think I talked about why my mom, I talked about my mom saying I should post on Substack and get paid for writing a blog, but that's not the point. Getting paid is not the point. Doing it is the point. Doing it and becoming a smarter and wiser person is the point. Of course, I would like to get paid for doing the shit that I like to do, and that's probably why Dan Blazarian, I don't know what his name is. Let me fucking Google. It's something. His last name is something. Blazarian. Bill Bilzerian, Bilzerian. And the description under his name is Armenian American poker player. So he made money playing poker, probably. And then made some money, and now but you see, that's what I'm saying. He probably started making money doing the things that he loved, and then now he just does that and gets paid and has a bunch of strippers following him around because he takes them to parties and to crazy places around the world. His Instagram is wild. His lifestyle is wild. But whatever. So, yeah, of course I would love to get paid, but that's not the point. Maybe I'll get there, maybe I won't, but I would love to get there. I think I could, but then think about how doing something you love becomes so tedious, it becomes a job. And then maybe one day you work so hard on your podcast or your blog that you start making money, but now you resent your blog or your podcast because now you have to quit your day job to put 40 hours into your podcast, to advertise it, to make good content, and to edit it, and to make clips. And you do the same for your blog, and you post, and you share, and you edit, and you hire a person to market, and then you just grow to resent it because it becomes a job. I love the podcast because I love the books that I read, and then I love talking about them. And I know they're making me a smarter person, or they're making me more. I've thought a lot about this Joe Rogan thing still, and I wrote about the Joe Rogan controversy, and I think the most important thing that the writing and the podcast and reading are doing for me is it's enhancing my critical thinking skills. And I think that's the most important skill all humans can have, their ability to be a critical thinker. Why? What's so important about being a critical thinker? I think I want to read your comment. Being a critical thinker includes not just like being smart, but it helps you see. It gives me a better idea of why people behave the way they behave, and how I can make better decisions in my life. I've still been consumed in the Joe Rogan thing, and I'm on Twitter, and I see a bunch of people say crazy shit, pro Joe Rogan and con Joe Rogan, anti Joe Rogan. Excuse me. So I can, and I think one of the problems with this controversy is people are hearing whatever Rogan is saying, and it feeds their confirmation bias. It turns them on, and they take it as scripture, and they don't do any critical thinking or apply any other perspectives, and they're not skeptical of anything that they hear. They just take it and they run with it. You do that with the Joe Rogan experience, and people do that with just regular pro-COVID, pro-vaccine mandates. They hear it, and it just feeds their biases. It feeds their ego, and then they run with it, and then they bring other people down because of how they feel. And I think one thing that all of these books and all of this is doing for me is it teaches me to be skeptical of all of it. And of course I have my own biases, and of course I'm ignorant in a lot of areas, but I have opinions. I have strong opinions about a lot of things, but more nuanced when it comes to, well, more new. I like to believe that I can have a rational perspective for most topics, for most things that are happening. And I read David Goggins' response to the Rogan controversy, and if you don't know Goggins, he's black, and he maybe I'll pull it up and just read a little bit of it, but he said, do I think Rogan is a racist? No. Was Joe wrong for saying the N-word? Yes. It's funny. You must be he said, I've been attacked by a few people for being friends with Joe Rogan as of late. Funny. You must have mistaken me for someone who actually gives a fuck about your opinion. He's He's a hard motherfucker. And anyway, I don't want to. I talked about Rogan last week. You know that he's my Lord and Savior. So I love what I love his dialogue. I definitely am biased towards his conversations. A lot of the reason that I have this, that I've pursued podcasting and pursued writing and pursued exercising is because of Rogan and his guests. I love the contribution that they make. They're a positive influence on me. And they say crazy shit a lot. He says crazy shit most of the time. He talks about doing drugs and aliens, and he's like, just as much as he talks about COVID, he talks about Sasquatch and how he doesn't think Sasquatch is real, but he brings guests on who think Sasquatch is real. Like he just has wild conversations. And he definitely has his own opinions, and he certainly has. He talks like he's done a ton of research. He's not the doctor at the table. The point is, I can hear Rogan's conversations. I can hear the anti-vax. They're not even really anti-vaccine. They're just pro-natural immunity doctors, or they're kind of conspiracy theorists too. But I can hear their conversations and think they're being. They're just kind of conspiracy theorists and pushing an agenda, an anti-vaccine, anti-establishment, anti-government agenda. And Rogan does it too. And the truth is that it's kind of attractive. The doomsday conspiracy theorists. To some people, that shit is attractive, and to some people, it's scary. And I think that's part of the reason why people are trying to shut him down, is because he's just having. Well, the conversations are scary because they're probably not even true. They're just conspiracies. Anyway, fuck it. The whole thing is way over my head, and I'm really just talking to mashed potatoes right now. So the point is, I love Rogan. And I love my podcast and my writing and my habits because I think I've been able to become a better critical thinker when it comes to important decisions like what's happening in the world with the pandemic. And when Rogan gets put on blast, I can look at what he's done and said that was not okay, that behavior is not okay, but still have a respect for him as the person that he is today. Because how many of us have never fucked up? I think Jordan Peterson on Twitter said something about putting how would the rest of the critics feel if all of their vices were put on display. Right now, the shitty thing for Rogan is probably half of his life is on YouTube. Oh, I want to read your comment. I do want to read your comment. Mashed Potatoes probably 10 minutes ago said, that little sports podcast I'm sorry. That little sports podcast I started out. I keep missing did. That little sports podcast I did started out really fun, but then it took like 15 hours a week to produce and it became not as fun pretty quick. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think I would grow to resent this or the blog or even like playing music. For a while I really wanted to be, just like everything. I just want to like live my life as I just want to do the shit I want to do and get paid for it, but it requires a ton of work and then it becomes a job because anything that makes you money, any work you do to make money is a job. So whether that's shoveling shit out of stalls or it's cleaning carpets or it's marketing a podcast, it's work. And I love this work. I love doing this, but part of what I love about it is it does not take all of my time. I mean, it takes me an hour and a half to record the podcast, but it probably takes 40 minutes, 30 minutes to edit it and then get it posted. So I mean, 2 hours a week. I spend 10 hours a week reading, but that's just like personal time. That's kind of That's kind of why this works. I dedicated a lot of time during the week to read, which is why the podcast works, which is why the blog works, because I'm doing that for myself. I'm doing the reading, and this like I've said, this podcast and the writing is a mode for me to be accountable to myself, so that I go to the yoga and meditate and think and read and all of it. So anyway, yeah, that's my blog plug. I'm on WordPress and I'm on Substack. Caden's blog, Caden Kelly's blog. Jeez, man, I'll tell you why I'm ranting so much. Here's some coffee. The truth is, this week I read a book called Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche, German philosopher. And I read this book because it's highly esteemed among philosophers, and Peterson quotes it a lot. But I got to be honest, this has probably been my least favorite book so far. And I'll tell you, and it's my fault. I listened to the whole book, and it's kind of like a diary. It was Friedrich Nietzsche is a philosopher, lived in the 1800s. This book was written in, I think, 1896. Oh, this has nothing on him. I'm going to pull up Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche bio. Just so we have an idea of who he was. Yeah, born in 1844. He died at age 55 in 1900. Yeah, so he died just a few years after this book was published. And from some of the other reviews that I've read on this book, people just call him an angry, bitter German. Let's see. What does Wikipedia got to say? German philosopher, cultural critic, and philologist. What is a philologist? The study of language in oral and written historical sources. It is the intersection of textual criticism, literacy criticism, history, and linguistics. This whole book is a criticism. It's a criticism to the German nation, to the European nation, and women. He's very critical of women. He's a cultural critic and philologist whose work has exerted a profound influence on modern intellectual history. He began his career as a classical philologist before turning to philosophy. He became the youngest person ever to hold the chair of classical philology at the University of Basel in 1869 at the age of 24. He resigned in 1879 due to health problems that plagued him most of his life. I remember, I should have found this part too, because I think in Mark Manson's Hope is Fucked, he gave a whole chapter dedicated to Nietzsche too. He's highly esteemed among smart people, and I didn't catch the magic. And I probably should read along to his dialogue to the audiobook, because it was hard to listen to. I'm just going to pick a random spot and start reading. I have very few notes. That's why I'm ranting, because I don't know how to fill this podcast up an hour. But let me see if I can. I'll just pick a sentence. The whole book too. It's like it's 9 chapters, but like I said, it's written like a diary, and there are 300 aphorisms. It's like 300 verses, 296. Let's read the last one. Alas, what are you, after all, my written and painted thoughts? Not long ago, you were so variegated, variegated, young and malicious, so full of thorns and secret spices, that you made me sneeze and laugh. And now, you have already doffed your novelty, and some of you I fear, are ready to become truths. So immortal do they look, so pathetically honest, so tedious. And was it ever otherwise? What then do we write and paint, we mandarins with Chinese brush, we immortalizers of things which lend themselves to writing? What are we alone capable of painting? I'm just not smart enough to catch the drift. Alas, only that which is just about to fade and begins to lose its odor. Alas, only exhausted in departing storms and belated yellow sentiments. Alas, only birds strayed and fatigued by flight, which now let themselves be captured with the hand. With our hand, we immortalize what cannot live and fly much longer, things only which are exhausted and mellow. And it is only for your afternoon, you, my written and painted thoughts, for which alone I have colors, many colors perhaps, many variegated softenings, variegated softenings, and 50 yellows and browns and greens and reds. But nobody will divine thereby how ye looked in your morning, you sudden sparks and marvels of my solitude, you, my old beloved, evil thoughts. I mean, that last chapter had more meat than probably the whole book. Anyway, I didn't get it. I need a professor to talk me through it. I tried reading some of the Spark Notes. It doesn't. I know. For the love, stop reading. I know it doesn't make it. I don't get it. But I did take some notes. I think the problem is it was his long form expression of philosophy, and it's not written like a 21st century book where there's points clearly written out and examples and stories. He was just talking about how the German condition is weak and frail. So anyway, and he was critical of women the whole time. So beyond good and evil, I'll read you the few notes that I got from chapter 1, Prejudices of Philosophers, and Dr. Jordan Peterson has a 45-minute video of him talking about this chapter, and I listened to 3 minutes probably. Yeah, so that he doesn't have key phrases, or he doesn't have, well, he's very repetitive, but he doesn't have what am I looking for? He doesn't make points like modern books do. Like, he doesn't have hot phrases. I don't know, just like a sentence that catches your attention or is inspiring. None of it's that's a good word. I was not inspired by anything, really, not by much. But I got I caught a few gems. The greater part of consciousness comes from instinctive thinking. The greater part of consciousness comes from instinctive thinking. That's kind of just a fact, I guess, or that's just whatever. Quote, a philosophy which ventures to recognize untruths as a condition of life has thereby alone placed itself beyond good and evil. A philosophy which ventures to recognize untruth as a condition of life has thereby alone placed itself beyond good and evil. And I think I took that quote down mostly because I thought the title of the book is Beyond Good and Evil. So I wrote it down, but then I think he mentioned it 100 more times throughout the book. But so anything, if you set your aims on things which are not true, you're not living life the way that it's designed, the way it's supposed to be. I think that's the point. Chapter 2, The Free Spirit. Oh, I also think this is the book. I think one of the big reasons I wanted to read this book was because it was the book that where the quote "God is dead and we've killed him" comes from, but I never got it. I probably zoned out so much. I'm sorry. I read a tweet from Ryan Holiday, who is the author of Courage is Calling and The Obstacle is the Way. And he owns a bookshop, and he's a smart, he's a stoic, and he made a tweet that said, just during this, while I was reading this book, because I just got Twittered, remember? He said, just a reminder, if you don't like a book, you don't have to finish it, or you don't have to read it, or something like that. Friendly reminder. But, I had to have some meat for this pod. So the meat comes from my Joe Rogan hot takes again. Chapter 2, The Free Spirit. Books for the general populace are always ill-smelling books. Do not go into churches if you wish to breathe fresh air. Following the crowd is not a free spirit. It's a free spirit. Yeah. Individuality, following the crowd. Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna keep going. How can there be a common good? Things that are common are of small value. Great things remain for the great. Everything rare for the rare. I think that's philosophy. Saint Steez TV. Good morning, sir. Yeah, I like that point. I think I do like that. Excellence is only saved for excellence. You can't have ordinary people can't be excellent. It's just the nature of the word of the definition. You can't have excellence. Like, you can't be healthy if you don't work on being healthy, or you can't be smart if you don't study. You can't be whatever, all of it. You can't have what you want if you don't work for it. And therefore, if you are a slob, that's what you will acquire. There's a quote that says pretty much everything that says that exactly. Basically, you are what you eat. That's not it, but that's the same thing. Whatever you get, whatever you work for is what you'll get. Whatever you work for is what you get. So if you don't work at all, then that's just your lot. It's kind of like karma, I guess. It's the consequence of your actions and your thoughts. If you don't put much effort into yourself. I had a thought in yoga yesterday. I thought, the more that you like yourself more when you work on yourself. When you seek to improve yourself, you like yourself more. And I was going to write about that yesterday, but I ended up having to drive around town all day yesterday, so I never got around to it. So here I'll just say that for now. You like yourself more when you work on yourself, and I think that applies across the board. When you put time into your, like, remember a couple years ago I had a garden, and I put work into that garden every day after work, and I was tired, but I wanted to see my tomatoes bloom. I want to see my peas and my peppers. And I had tons of cilantro. I was out there trimming cilantro every day. I really want to do it again. And last year I neglected it. I planted everything, but gave up maybe a month into it. I didn't give up. I just went half-assed. And it sucked. My garden sucked. And I didn't love it as much. I didn't have it, but I loved and respected my first. I was taking videos of the little vegetables that were coming out. It was awesome. I loved it. So same thing. I think the point is there is no common good. That's what Nietzsche says. There's no common good. There's just the common is for the common. The ordinary is for the ordinary, but excellence is for the excellent. And the healthy is for the healthy. Whatever. That's the point. Chapter 3. The religious mood. Quote, it is the profound suspicious fear of an incurable pessimism which compels a word that I didn't get. Centuries to fasten their teeth into religious interpretation of existence. I'm going to read it one more time and then I'm going to try to break it down. It is the profound suspicious fear of an incurable pessimism which compels blank centuries to fasten their teeth into a religious interpretation of existence. It is our profound suspicious fear of an incurable pessimism which compels us to be religious, compels us to fasten our teeth into a religious interpretation of existence, a suspicious fear of an incurable pessimism. I've talked about being pessimistic before. I after my Mormon, ex-Mormon, like the amount of content I consumed after leaving the church, I became incredibly pessimistic. I went from believing in God and believing in heaven to not believing in anything, and in fact, and then it's just thinking that we're out here alone in the universe, and I still kind of think that. And when I was coming to that conclusion, and I would talk to my friends and family about it, it just feels incredibly pessimistic, because it's incredibly optimistic to believe that there is a God and there is a purpose and a plan in life, and it's comforting it when your family members die or your friends die or something tragic happens, that you can rely on a plan. You can rely on the existence of their spirit, that they're alive somewhere else, and you go from believing in that optimism into thinking when someone dies, the only thing that remains is their memory, and you go from happily ever after to a chasm of nothingness. It's very pessimistic, and I never liked that pessimism until I watched a video from Kurzgesagt. I can't say their name. It's a German name on YouTube, and I might have talked about them before. They do a bunch of science videos, and they had a video called Optimistic Nihilism, however you say it. And this was right around the time of my post-Mormon exploration, and the video talks about how we don't know if there's anything in the universe. So if you want to believe in something, believe that there's nothing. It's just nihilism. And then the optimistic part of nihilism is, because there's no preordained purpose, we get to create our own. We get to decide what gives us purpose. And they said if all of your mistakes and all of your embarrassments end up in a burning ball of flame at the end of the world, then none of it really matters anyway. So there's no reason to not go after your dreams, or to not go after the things that make you the happiest. So that's an optimistic part of a pessimistic viewpoint. He says our suspicious fear of an incurable pessimism compels us to fasten our teeth into a religious interpretation of existence. He just says it in a lot of words, but our fear of death and the unknown compels us to believe in a higher power and in God, because it's optimistic. It gives our life purpose. And if that is the purpose you want to instill in your life, that you want to hold on to, it gives you optimism, then there's no reason to take that away from anybody. And all I'm saying is, on the other side of natural that's like a natural optimism. It's like basic optimism. But if you remove God or eternity or the heavens or higher powers, it's naturally pessimistic. But you can be optimistic in your pessimism. Even though there might not be a God or there might not be heaven, you could still have purpose. You could create purpose. You could fasten your teeth into something else. You could fasten your teeth into being a good person and whatever else, instead of fastening your teeth into a religious interpretation of existence. That's part of the reason why I don't want to spend all my time working cleaning carpets, because I want to be doing all the things that are meaningful to me. I've spent a lot of time thinking about meaningful engagement, meaningful activities, and most of the time they're kind of boring or they take too much time. A really meaningful activity for me in my relationships is with my girlfriend is we watch TV, we eat dinner, and we just hang out and we cuddle and do all the snuggle stuff. And it just takes time. It all takes time. And video games aren't as meaningful, but they take time. But that's the point. So how are you spending your time consuming meaningful things, or consuming, what's the opposite of meaningful? Empty things or meaningless things? The only way I can back video games up is because the only time I play is when I'm playing with my friends, and it's like a social thing. It's like a social bonding thing. It's not entirely empty. I'm not just like distracted from the world. I'm doing something with my friends. It could be playing video games, or I could be playing pickleball, or I could be playing golf. Those things take time as well, and they're social. Video games are social for me. It's not just empty entertainment. That's how I justify it. So, same thing. Are the things that you're engaging with meaningful? Or are they not meaningful? Lots of activity in the chat, but it looks like it's mostly disses. Is completing the RDR2 campaign meaningful activity? Actually, I got to be honest, that is still my favorite video game experience of all time. And I was telling Hudge about it last night, and I was recalling a bunch of the activities, all of the story and the characters and all of it. And I remember crying at some of the cutscenes. I was so involved in the characters. And then I bought a cowboy hat after, because I love but you know what? I was like a strictly good Arthur. I was exceptionally moral. So I felt like I was like a really good person, because it is not empty when I'm hunting down bounties as a bounty hunter and shooting up saloons. But in all honesty, it is a beautiful campaign and game. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah, you played 10 hours yesterday. Yeah, I love it, dude. I'm glad you're doing it, because it's seriously probably my favorite video game experience of all time. No, I'll talk about RDR. I'll talk about RDR2 all day long, and I still want to restart it. I kind of want to experience it with you again. Experience it again with you. Okay. So let's see. Took another note from chapter 3. Religions do the most damage when they behave as an end rather than a means to the end. Oh, I said that weird. Religions do the most damage when they behave as an end rather than as a means to an end with other means. I think I added that last part for no reason. Religions do the most damage when they behave as an end. Yes. When they are the end-all, be-all. Because if you are not part of their religion, then everyone else is damned. And let's see. So if religions behave as a means to an end, as like this is like I don't love that, but it's better than as an end. Religion as a means to an end. Like if the religion is the end, then there's no wiggle room. But if the religion is a means to your own end, then you kind of get to dictate what you take as true and not. Yeah, I still don't love that. That's Nietzsche, though. Oh, this coffee is really good today. So that's religion. That's the religious mood. Chapter 4. This is a word that I don't think is real, and I have to look it up. Let's see. Apophthegms. Apothegm. 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 A concise saying or maxim. An aphorism. Then why not you just say an aphorism? Apothegm. Maybe because it's a German word. Try the strong coffee. I know I have so much coffee I'm still going through, but I want it. That's my next, like when I restock, that's what I'm grabbing. For sure. Okay. So, an aphorism, aphorisms and interludes, chapter 4. When a woman has scholarly inclinations, there is usually something wrong with her sexual nature. He was pretty sexist. When a woman has scholarly inclinations, there is usually something wrong with her sexual nature. That's a direct quote. Ultimately, one loves their desires more than the thing desired. One loves their desires more than the thing desired. I agree with that. It kind of reminds me of I've read a lot about dopamine recently, and it makes me think about how what people get addicted to is not necessarily the thing, but the craving for the thing, or the craving. Like, if you haven't heard me say this yet, gamblers aren't addicted. Addiction doesn't stem from the money won from gambling. It stems from the unpredictability of the win. And a near win is just as addictive as a win. So when you're playing cards, and like we're playing poker, and you have a 3 of a kind, and someone else, and so you've got a really good hand, and you flay it down. Someone else has a full house or a straight, and you nearly won. Gamblers get addicted to that feeling. There's almost as much dopamine released in a near win situation as a win. And that's what this reminds me of. One loves their desires more than the thing desired. I think that's what he's trying to say. When we get addicted to the process or the craving more than the thing itself. That's why things are never satisfying indefinitely. That's why there's always a new iPhone, and people always want new cars, because our satisfaction dies fast. And one thing that I've learned from Stoicism, particularly, is the less that you desire, the happier you'll be. The more in control of your cravings you'll be. The less you desire. Happiness doesn't come from obtaining everything. It comes stronger from things that, let's see. Happiness comes more from craving less. Yeah, that's the point. Because things only make us happy for so long. Like, they only release dopamine for so long until they it becomes the baseline, and then we seek more novelty. But being able to control our compulsions is where real satisfaction comes. So, I see your comment, and I've totally forgot about it, but it was worth it. I'm doing this during the podcast. So, That's I like that. I do like that from chapter 4. Chapter 5, the natural history of morals. If you do away with danger, you'll do away with morality. Oh yeah, that this was from this was from this reminds me of earlier in the book. Sorry, I'm doing a really big stretch. My back. Oh, it felt good. Earlier in the book when we talked about see, I can find the the common good. Well, maybe that's not totally the same, but morality. There's only morality because there is immorality, and it makes me think of of a a balance in religion too. There's only there's only need for an atonement because there is sin. So I always thought, well, what if God, and part of the Mormon dialogue, what if God had what if God had gone with Satan's plan where there was no agency and which allowed everybody to return to heaven, and we could still live our lives, but we would have no agency. How would that have worked anyway? Well, we probably would have been like all of the animals without our current consciousness. This is just how this is my reasoning. So, the only way this is a dumb thought train to hop on, but the point is, God needed sin, the ability to sin, for us to choose good, right? And that's why Christ atoned so that we can return to God. And it's pretty much the same. It's the same line of thinking with morality in general. There couldn't be morality if there was no evil. If there was no, he says danger, but it's, if there was no immorality, there could be no morality. There could be no goodness if there was no evil. So, doing away, I think part of his example was we can't do away with evil things. We can't just get rid of evil because then there is no morality. And it's kind of, I guess it kind of goes with, well, this is so dumb, but it makes me think of that quote in The Incredibles when Syndrome says he's got Mr. Incredible tied up on that, that electric jail or whatever it is. And he talks about how he's going to take everyone, he's going to get everyone's superpowers with all of his technology. And he's walking away and he says, and when everyone's super, no one will be. Right? That's what comes to my head. So if without immorality, there is no morality. If everybody was strong and sexy and rich, then nobody would be strong and sexy and rich. And it kind of sucks that there are people, it sucks that people are ugly or that they're not funny or that they're unable to work hard. But this boy in his bag whipping out incredible quotes, but it's true. It's what comes to my mind. There couldn't be any goodness if there was no evil. There couldn't be attractive people if there were no ugly people. There couldn't be strong people if there were no weak people. It's the dominance hierarchy that Jordan Peterson talks about. There's only a hierarchy because there is inequality. And inequality is when it comes to things like race, it's we want equality. But we can't have equality when it comes to looks because that's how our biology is, right? Is that fair to say? If everyone was attractive, would everyone be happy? Or it's just not how biology played. It's not how evolution played itself out. played us to have unattractive people, to have features that we were. Okay, here's another thought that goes along with this. Part of our ability to recognize attractive people comes from this, and this comes from the book I read last week. What was it called? Behave by Robert Sapolsky. It comes from this line of thinking. Our ability to recognize attractive people stems from our desire to reproduce, and our desire to reproduce is strongest with people who are the healthiest, and our biology is tuned to recognize attractiveness as healthy people. So, people who are strong and fit, like the survival of the fittest, right? The strongest and like men with big muscles and strong facial features and good health are attractive. And women that are strong and have like birthing hips, that have big butts and big boobs because they have body fat on them. They're not malnourished. And men are attracted to that because it signifies health. So our desire to reproduce stems from this recognition or this ability to recognize health. Okay, that's the point. So, if everybody was healthy, maybe there would be no unattractive people. There would be sexier people than others, I guess. But if all men had wide shoulders and big muscles, and were 6 feet tall. That's not me. And there were women and all women were curvy and whatever. I don't want to be. It sounds sexist, but it's on both sides of the aisle. If everyone was healthy and had like this standard for health, then everyone would be attractive. But we live in a world where you don't really have to take care of yourself, and you could still survive. You can eat McDonald's every day, and you just don't end up being attractive. Steve says, in many Asian countries, it is much more attractive to be as thin as possible. That's true. That also it's a cultural thing as well. But I think that kind of comes. I don't know if that's I don't know if that is like a modern cultural. I don't want to say decision, but arrangement, or if that's like because evolutionarily, thinness or skinniness was never a representation of it never demonstrated health. All I'm saying is evolutionarily, health looked like for men it looked like big and strong, and for women it looked not plump. I don't know. It just like not skin and bones. Because people who are too skinny are, when they're skeletons, I think I've made my point. I think this idea now to be as thin as possible, and I'm probably wrong. I'm just spouting it out. Is this arrangement to be as thin as possible in Asian countries today comes from our culture, because now I don't fucking know. I don't want to. I'm gonna just move on. But that's all my notes. That's the entire book anyway. That's up to chapter 5, and there are 9 chapters, and I didn't get anything else in 6, 7, 8, or 9. So, that's it. That's Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. And I never caught where he says God is dead. Maybe it's not this book. I'm going to figure that out. Who said God is dead and we killed him? Friedrich Nietzsche. What is Nietzsche's God is dead and we God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. Where does it come from, though? What book says book says Friedrich Nietzsche heralds the death of God poetically. Oh, it's his first book, Zarathustra, in 1884. He doesn't say in this one. That's why. I thought it was in this one. Yeah. So anyway, that's the book. So anyway, Steez, if you find anything else on that, then I would be interested to hear it, because from the key takeaways from that last book I read was humans just evolutionarily are designed to recognize health as one of the biggest factors for attractiveness. Women want to mate with the strongest of the men, and men want to mate with everything that walks, pretty much. But the healthiest of the women, they want the healthiest of the women to bear their children. And throughout time, the healthiest women were the ones that survived in childbearing. So the strongest women survived giving kids. So it just became a standard of attractiveness. So I'm curious to hear if you know anything else about this being as thin as possible. Because now in America, some people get their whole bodies manipulated. They do what do you call like people who get massive piercings, or they put rods through their face and their bodies, and they do surgeries to make their waist smaller. It's all kind of people have we just are allowed to do that now because of our technology, our ability. And it's not attractive to everybody, but some people find that shit attractive, and I am not kink shaming anybody. So that's it. Next week, I got a different book that I know I'm gonna like because it was recommended by my mom, and I still don't know if I should spoil the books before I read them. So I'm not going to do that yet. But I have a book already lined up. It'll be a good one, and it'll be right here on Monday, just as always, 8 a.m., February 14th. Oh, that's Valentine's Day. So show up with some chocolates, or show up with a protein shake, because we have goals and we don't eat too much chocolate. It's stupid. It's so stupid. So find me here on YouTube or Facebook under Cadence Podcast, or Twitch on Alpha Seltzer, and then find my blog, Caden Kelly's blog.wordpress.com, and we will see you on Valentine's Day. Have a great week, everybody.
読み直しているで読み直しているだけがで読み直しているで読み直している